everyone, this is Brian from ActiveMelody.com. Well, in this week's guitar lesson, we're going to take a look at a Mark Knopfler style rhythm and lead, playing it fingerstyle just the way that Mark does it. So Mark uses these three fingers when he plays. He plays almost banjo style. And for those of you that are intimidated by fingerstyle, you should definitely try this, because this is not your typical, this isn't Chet Atkins. This is a different way of playing fingerstyle. It's very rhythmic, and it's actually very intoxicating once you kind of get the groove going. So if you've never tried this, I encourage you to do it. Even if you're a beginner, you don't need to have an electric guitar. You can do this one on an acoustic guitar. Anyway, I've got this lesson split into two parts. So there's a repetitive part, which is kind of the rhythm part. And so that's what we're going to learn in this video, which is kind of the rhythm. However, every other time I played it, if you'll notice, I threw in a little lead lick. So those lead licks will be available to premium members, as well as the tablature and the MP3 jam track that you can practice along with. So you can play along with the band minus the guitar part. Alright, so you can see that that does work on its own without any jam track. Now, I do think when you're learning this, you're going to want to learn to play it with the jam track, because it forces you to stay on tempo. This is a very rhythmic thing to do when you're playing fingerstyle like this. You can hear all these little slaps and percussive elements that are happening with the right hand. And so it creates its own rhythm. And I wanted to play that without the jam track so you can see just what the guitar is contributing to that. It's contributing quite a bit. You may have not noticed it so much when you hear the full jam track, but there's a lot that would be missing if you take the guitar out. So okay, so I'm going to show you how to play it fingerstyle, the way that Mark Knopfler would do it. But I'm also going to include, towards the end of this video, I'm going to include a version with a pick. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but I know there are some of you that just don't want to put your pick down. So I shouldn't cater to that, but I understand, because it is a different style of playing. And if this is something you don't think you would ever use, then I wanted to include that for you, the pick version. But I will say the pick version is not nearly as cool as the Mark Knopfler fingerstyle. Okay, so the tone settings, I have my bridge, my pickup selector switch on the bridge pickup. This is the Jimmy Vaughn Signature Series Strat. A key to the tone is dialing your tone knob back to about 50%. So here's what it sounds like all the way up. You can hear. See how it's bright? It's a little more country. Now watch this. See, if I dial it back to about 50%, it gives you a little more growl, but it's more controlled and more compressed sounding to my ear. So tone setting for your pickup, put it at about 50%, I would say. Okay, the only other thing I'm playing through the TS-808 pedal, which I've been using a lot lately. I love it. It's a Tube Screamer pedal by Ibanez. And I have the tone, the level, and the overdrive all at about 80%. So they're all cranked up pretty good. Not at 100, but at 80. So you're getting a nice little bit of growl. Now, if you don't have a pedal, that's okay. You can just run this straight through your amp and just turn your overdrive or your gain up on your amp and try and get a nice distorted sound. You don't want it to be too heavy. You don't want death metal, or any of that. But just try and get a nice breakup and add a little bit of reverb, not a lot, but a little reverb goes a long way for something like this. Okay, so those are the settings. Pretty simple. This would be something you'd hear Mark Knopfler play, especially on a song like Money for Nothing. I think of that, some of those songs off the Brothers in Arms album. Okay, so now that we have our tone settings, let's talk through how we play this thing. So here's how we're going to start it. So that's what we're going to learn first. Now, let me show you what the right hand does. The way that our fingers line up over the strings. Our thumb takes care of the 5th string, so the thumb is on the 5th string. Pointer finger is on the 4th string, and middle finger is on the 3rd string. Now, we're only going to use these 3 fingers. Mark Knopfler plays that way. It's very similar to the way a banjo player, playing Scruggs style banjo, you You have your thumb pick and your two metal picks, and you can get a lot of speed going if you play that way. But it does take a lot of practice. So now what we're doing is not going to be, we're not going to be doing any of the rolls or anything. We're just going to be taking a percussive element out of that, or we're taking our thumb, some slaps, and some plucks, and you put them all together and you get this cool kind of rock and roll thing. Okay, so that's how the fingers line up with the right hand. The left hand, the left hand is actually very easy. It's just barring the first 4 strings on the 2nd fret, and we're going to play strings 5, 4, and 3. Just those 3 strings. So that makes it easy. We're only focusing on really 3 strings, except for some of the lead licks. We'll break out of that, but at least for this rhythm part of it. So now the other thing to point out is watch my left hand. See how I build that A chord? So it's that's just open, and I hammer on there. So when you play the A, you're going to notice me hammering it on, and I'll call that out as I do it. But all right, so that's the left hand. Pretty straightforward. Now here's how it starts. It starts with our thumb playing the 5th string. We can do that. That's pretty easy. Now watch this. My fingers come down and mute the strings. My left hand stays exactly what it is. You're not really muting anything with the left hand. I take that back. When I come down like this, I guess I am releasing some of the tension here. I guess I never really analyzed it until as I'm going through it, I'm going to catch some of these things. But so you're going to keep your finger in place here, but you're going to let the tension come off a little bit so that it's resting here to create that. Okay, now these 2 fingers, the back of your fingernails on these 2 fingers are coming down on strings 4 and 3. The best you can. Now it's okay if you accidentally hit string 5 and 4, or even if you go up and hit string 2, as long as you catch it and stop it. You'll notice that with especially a song like Money for Nothing, there's a lot of these little pops and things that happen. Sometimes it's controlled. I think sometimes it's just the nature of the beast, but as long as the timing part is right, it's okay to stray off a little bit. But that's what you're trying to hit. With the back of your fingernails, hit strings 4 and 3. Just like that. So that's how you're going to start practicing. Just see if you can do this. Now, the next thing we're going to introduce, so 2 things just happened there. So after this, we played the thumb again, and then I plucked with these 2 fingers, middle and pointer. See what I did there? I grabbed strings 3 and 4, open, and then I hammered on with my left hand. So when we put them together, we have... Let me do that slowly. Do it again. Okay, let's move on. We got... So what just happened there is 3 things. One is another of these little muted strum things using the backs of our fingernails. Then we did another pluck, and then we followed it up with our thumb again on the 5th string. So it goes like this. Okay, let's put those parts together now. From the start, we have... Alright, let's repeat that a few times. 2, 3, 4. See how my hand can actually keep rhythm just by doing this? That never really breaks. So try and get that down, and then we're going to move on. Now watch what happens next. After I hit my thumb on the 5th string, I come up here with my middle finger and play the 3rd string. And then watch this. So after I play this note, I'm going to slide up here. I'm going to take my ring finger on the 5th fret 4th string, and I'm going to slide up to the 7th fret 4th string. And then that last note is the 5th fret 3rd string. So when we put it together, it goes. Now what I'm doing there, I'm using my pointer finger, just like we said. We line that up over the 4th string. And then my middle finger grabs this note. And when I hit this 5th fret 4th string, I push it slightly sharp. Oh, the other thing to point out is the vibrato. You know, Mark Knopfler uses a lot of vibrato when he plays. That may be tough for some of you to try and get that vibrato. If you can't do it, you can just play it straight like this. Anyway, that's what you're doing up to that point. Let me play through that slowly. One more time. Now, one other thing to point out is before we slide into this, I showed you to play your middle finger on the 3rd string, and then you're fretting here with that A chord. You can either do that, or you can take your pointer finger and play on the 4th string. Either of those, they're really kind of like a pickup note to get you into this. But I find myself, as I'm explaining this and playing it, sometimes I might grab that string. Either string worked because they're part of the A chord. But just play around with it. If it's easier for you to use your pointer finger, it would sound like this. Well, let me try it again. Hear it? So either of those notes work. Just wanted to point that out. Okay, so then the second time through, we got that again. So we're going to start with our thumb on the 5th string. So it's just thumb, mute, thumb again. And then watch this. There's another pull. We're pulling with these 2 fingers, strings 3 and 4, open, hammering on the A chord. Now watch this. We're going to come up and play the C chord and the D chord, but we're only going to play those same 3 strings, strings 5, 4, and 3. Now, what makes it a little different is the timing of it. So I don't play it straight like that. The way you play it is like that. And this is how you're going to want to practice going back and forth between those 2 chords. You can see when I play this chord, the C chord, and I'll show you how to make the chord, pointer finger on the 5th string, 3rd fret. Then I use my pinky. You may want to use your ring finger to go ahead and bar strings. Really, you can bar the first 4 strings on the 5th fret, although you're only going to play strings 5, 4, and 3. So however is easiest for you to play those. If it's easier for you to do it more of a power chord style, that works too. This is just how I've gotten comfortable doing it. So that you play that C chord, and you start it by the thumb and then the pluck. So the thumb, pluck, and then we slide it up, same shape, but now we're up here. We move up 2 frets. And then I do the pluck, and then the thumb. So it sounds like this. Let me do it slowly. Okay, thumb, pluck, mute, pluck, thumb. Thumb, pluck, mute, pluck, thumb. It's hard to say. But you can see how your thumb is keeping the time. Okay, let me back up and play up to that point. Okay, so to get back, what you do after the D chord, there's another strum, or a muted strum rather, where your fingers just kind of come down on the fretboard. Then I use my pointer finger and play this open D string. So watch this. So what I'm doing there's the open D string, and then at the same time I'm gonna play my 5th string with my thumb, and then I'm gonna hammer on with my left hand like this. Here it is slowly. And that gets you right back into position to play it again. So now I'm changing the timing a little bit by going exaggerating that, but you could do that too. So let me play it normal tempo. It's actually maybe a little slow. It's so fun. Once you get that groove going, you almost don't want it to stop. It just feels so rhythmic with your right hand. It feels kind of like you're just patting on a bucket, or something. And it'll feel really weird and strained in the beginning because you're trying to get. It's like petting your head and rubbing your stomach. Or juggling 4 balls or something. It feels awkward. But once you get the groove, and just stick with it. Just try it a little bit every day. Alright, so that's what we have for the fingerstyle rhythm video. Now, if you want to learn the leads that I worked in between all of the rhythm parts, you're going to want to go to the part 2 video. I have 3 different leads that I show you, and I'll also show you the scales that we're working within so you can add your own leads. But I'm playing them fingerstyle, so it's a little different way to play lead, but I played like, that was one of them, and so all those little, even a Chuck Berry style, those kinds of things. So I'll show you how to do that in the part 2 video. I did say that I would show you how to do this with a pick at the end of this video. So if you don't want to play this fingerstyle, here's how you may want to think about doing it with a pick. So you can see what I'm doing. Here's my strumming pattern. Let me slow it down. 5th string, 5th string. So you're going to want to start it by playing this A chord. Again, you're going to play those same 3 strings, 5, 4, and 3. So here's how I would think of learning it, starting it by getting this groove going. 5, 5. When I say 5, that's the 5th string. 5, 5. You can see my pick is going up there and hitting that 5th string each time I do that. And in between that, as I'm yelling 5, I'm going 5. You can start to feel it. And that would just be picked out. And I showed you all the fingerings at the beginning. Then we're back. And then we do the C, the C and the D. Now when you go to the D, just play strings 4 and 3, and then come in and play the 5, 5th strings. Hear it? It keeps it in timing. 5. Here's what you're doing with that 5th string. That's how you want to kind of think of it. It's kind of like your bass player. So anyway, that's how I would do it with a pick. But not as cool as fingerstyle. Okay, so there's the Mark Knopfler rhythm. We'll see you in part 2 to get some of those leads. And make sure you check out EP110. That's a lesson number for this lesson if you want to learn more.